Welcome to the Fukit Podcast, where Fukit means setting the fears aside and having the courage to embrace who we truly are.
On this podcast, we're going to dive deep with you into the juiciest and most transformative aspects of life, and hope they will offer valuable insights and practical tools to support your well-being and growth.
We're here to remind you that you're not alone on this adventure called life. So grab a seat. Fuck it. Hi, Daniel. How are you?
I am nervous.
Nervous.
Yes.
We're welcoming the nervousness. Why are you nervous?
Many reasons, I'd say. Also because we've tried reigniting the podcast so many times. So it's like, is it going to work this time? Are we going to sustain it this time?
Yeah.
Speaking in English, I feel like even though we've been traveling for 4 years and we've been speaking mostly English, or English because we meet so many people around the world, their English is not necessarily so good. So I feel like my English has deteriorated, plus just Hebrew has become, I feel more comfortable speaking Hebrew.
So I'm going to ask you
Yes.
to speak as simple as possible, because I'm not a native English speaker, and for me it would be easier if you speak in a more simple way and use like simple words that I can understand, like deteriorating.
Maybe I can talk like this, it make it easier.
No, but really, I think it's really amazing that we got to a point where we can share our process in English, because I feel like we're so ready. It's been a long time. Let's say, I wanted to say 4 years, but let's say it's been a lifetime that we've been experiencing so much and meeting so many people from around the world that it kind of felt like we're missing out on the opportunity to reach out to much more people. And when we initially started the podcast in Hebrew, we started it when we started traveling in India, and it was our way to basically share what we're going through with our friends and families to start with, and then it started spreading to other people as well. But I feel like doing this in English is putting the intention to make this podcast available to as many people as possible that are seeking and searching and kind of looking for maybe refuge in this world of so many information and people that are offering them something. And I hope that by us being vulnerable and sharing our journey, what we've been through, what we learned, we can support other people on their journey and make them feel like they are a part of our journey as well. Make each other feel like we're not alone on this journey of soul searching, let's call it.
I feel also like we've met so many people along the way, and when we shared that we had a podcast, they're like, oh, can we listen? And then it's like, oh, but it's in Hebrew. And so a lot of our friends, many new friends, new family members from the past 4 years, we want to include them.
Yeah.
And people in Israel speak English, so it's
True.
Inclusive of everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So hi guys. Hi
Hi,
everyone
everyone.
who couldn't hear us until now.
Yeah.
Let's introduce ourselves. I'm Anael,
I'm Daniel.
and we've been together for 13 years.
Jesus.
And I'm originally from Israel.
I was born in the U.S. but raised in Israel from age 4. And I just want to say one more thing about the English. I feel like maybe before I was kind of blaming other people's bad English on my bad English. And I think that was just me deterring from my fears. Like I've always felt as an American living in Israel that my English wasn't good enough. I felt for maybe 1 or 2 years in high school when we had like serious English teachings. And I've always felt more self-conscious about speaking English. And I feel like I get stuck more often and I forget words and my vocabulary isn't as good as it is in Hebrew. So I just want to take that back and say that, yeah, it's more about me.
Yay. Thank you for sharing your vulnerability. Yeah. And this is basically what we're going to do in this podcast, is share vulnerable parts of ourselves, because this is our intention, to be as much open as we can, bring ourselves in authenticity and communicate in a way that allows us to be fully ourselves. I think this is the greatest goal of this podcast.
What's important about that?
I think that what happened to me when we started recording in Hebrew was that finally I gave myself a voice. and I was allowing myself to share personal processes that I was going through. And there's something about sharing what you are really going through that liberates me, at least. And so when I see other people doing that, I get very inspired to do the same for myself. So I feel like my intention for this podcast is to allow myself and others to be free, to be connected, to feel like whatever they're going through is okay, even if it doesn't feel normal, and kind of normalizing our humanness by sharing vulnerability and truth. Of course, I have my boundaries, which is also important. I constantly check in to see what feels good, what is important for me to share, what do I feel like I still need to process with myself, what do I want to keep private. So it's a game of sharing and taking care of myself. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, I'm finding it hard for me to like follow and without my mind going to what I'm gonna say and where's like focusing on and being fully present. And I feel like I felt the energy of what you said. and I mean, and maybe also because we've spoken about these things so many times, so I know how you feel
answer.
and I know the answer. But I feel like another thing that comes up for me from what you're sharing and in general is another insecurity around, it's like, who am I that I can come now and bring myself and be worthy enough to share things that people would want to hear. And it feels like sometimes when people kind of share on podcasts or in general things that they've learned or they have to say, then it sounds like that's it. They've figured it out. They know. And then I'm not sure why I'm feeling so emotional, but and then it could make me feel less.
Can you share more
like
about
like
it?
I don't know, meaning they know and I don't know, because they are the people that are giving lectures, they are the people who are on TED Talks, they are the people who have podcasts, and I guess also fear of being judged by like, who are you to come and tell me what to do? That's A, like people might think that, and B, do I really have something worthy of sharing? And I don't want people to feel less because we're sharing something here on a podcast. I think it's very important for me to say that I really don't know everything, but yes, to look at myself and say, wow, I am 36 years old and I did learn a thing or two over this lifetime. And the things that we're going to share on this podcast are just kind of thoughts and what's the word? See, here I'm getting stuck with words in English,
okay.
But like that, this is not the way you have to live your life. This is just things that we've found that have helped us. So we want to put it out there. And I don't want by any way means to sound like we figured it out. We know. We do know a lot of things, but we've definitely not figured it all out. And it's constantly an uphill battle, I feel, our life and struggles. And since how we've decided to live our life is very different than everything we've been used to. So we're constantly learning and growing. That clear?
Yeah, it was very clear. And thank you for putting it out there. And I think it's an important topic to say that when we decide to share what we're going through, it's the energy that counts for me on where you're coming from. Are you coming from a place of ego and wanting to feel better about yourself? And which is okay in a way, I get it, but is it the only reason for putting yourself out there? Or is there really a place of genuine desire to help others and share what you do know for yourself and put it out there as an offer to say, hey, this is what I've been through, this is what I've learned. If you can learn anything from that, great. If it makes you reflect on your life and say, wow, I totally can't relate to that, great. It's like we're not trying to convince anyone to do anything that we did, but we can say, hey, we're both people that have gone through things in life. We made certain decisions as individuals. and as a couple. And by sharing what we've been through, maybe it can assist you, support you, inspire you, make you think about your own life. And I think the reason why we decided to do a podcast to begin with is because we are these kinds of people that loves to have deep conversations with people. And I think one of your greatest traits is your ability to connect to people through conversations, and your curiosity in people, the way you ask questions and the way you look at someone's story. So by recording our conversations and including people, we're actually, first of all, doing the thing we love the most, which is connecting with others. And secondly, I forgot what was the second thing, but it was something around, the way we observed people's reaction to our conversations. We met many, many people along the way, and we sat with a lot of people for conversations. And this is, I think, the one thing that I really noticed, that these conversations impact people and they impact their lives and it supports them. So I'm saying it in a very humble way to say that, let's open these conversations to other people that can't be with us in the living room, and they can sit with us with this podcast and be included in things that we observe and explore and share with people that are close to us. And so that's another invitation to create like a closer community that is not just physical, but also virtual and can cross countries or places.
Yeah, and also from what you're saying, it's finding, I guess, that balance, being humble and when that like leads to feelings of unworthiness or I'm not good enough, and finding that balance of saying I am good enough and I have learned a lot and I do have what to share, but like you said, not coming from like you need to listen to me or from that egotistical kind of, I don't know, power thirsty place.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it has a lot to do with my healing journey that I'm still on, which is just being worthy, having a worthy place in this world, and that I am good enough and that I am growing constantly, but that I have learned and that I do have things to share and that I do have a place
mm-hmm.
in this world. And that if I take space in this world, it's not a competition with someone else. I'm not putting someone else down. I'm not taking their space. There's space for everyone. And I think that growing up in the Western society that we grew up in, there's this sense of, also just in school, how you're graded, the grading system, it's the first thing that came to mind, and constantly competing with each other and coming home with the grading system, and is it good enough, and what did your friends get, and was I better or not, and it feels like there isn't enough space for everyone in that sense. And that's just a small example, but I guess I've felt that over the years. Maybe it's just me being one of 8 children in the family. So it could be like constantly needing to prove my place and my worthiness in front of my parents, my grandparents, family members, community members. And so, coming and saying like, hey, this is my way to take space. Another way to take space in the world. This is my way to share what I've learned and that it's okay and healthy. And I think what we're doing and want to be doing is encouraging others to do the same, because otherwise, how do we differentiate between each other? We are all coming from the same place, from a womb, and we are the same, but at the same time, I think we each have our individual gifts and powers and things to bring to this world, and it's a shame not to.
I think it's so beautiful the way you share your vulnerability so openly in front of a camera and in front of a mic to people that we don't know who's gonna listen. And I think it's super brave of you, and it's, I think, the thing I learned the most from you, vulnerability. And you were always so courageous in the way you share your truth in the world, and it's something I really admire about you. And I learned so much about that in our relationship, on how to be vulnerable, especially as a man, where, wow, I think you've gone through such a huge journey of releasing the image of what manhood looks like, and you embody to me the new era of manhood, which is a combination of strength and vulnerability at the same time. I think it's a whole topic to discuss, but I just wanted to... There you go. Everyone gets to see what I see, and on a daily basis. This is what happens when you live with an allergic kind of guy that always sniffs. But I want to kind of invite us to... I think it's a huge topic and it's an important one, and I'm glad we touched on it, but I actually want to take a step back. And now that we've acknowledged the fact that you are allowed in the space and you have the opportunity to share what you did learn, how would you choose to introduce yourself today?
Fuck. I feel like I don't want to introduce too much of myself. Like it'll unfold as we go along, and I feel like it's even more interesting that way than just saying like, here, this is my resume, this is what I've done. I could just say that I'm 36 years old. We have been together since 21, I want to say, more or less, and age of 21. Sorry.
Yeah.
And yeah, went from, it's kind of me and you went from the normal lifestyle back living in Israel and Jerusalem, then in Tel Aviv, first as an architect, then working in venture capital, living the corporate lifestyle, and just something huge missing in my life, but I could not express or even pinpoint or even know. I think you tried pointing to it, but I just had so much resistance to admitting, because then I felt like I'm failing life, I'm failing the system, I'm a failure, I'm not successful. And that was a huge hit to my ego, to my male ego. I needed to feel successful, and to feel successful and be successful in that society and type of lifestyle we were living was very specific, was the job, the title, the money. And through, it wasn't such, I would say, courageous choices, but it was more of just like depression and severe eczema, skin disease, that we just had to break free from it, and go for 3 months to India, which ended up being 3 years. And now we've kind of given into or chosen this nomadic lifestyle. And we're constantly unfolding, both on a personal level, in the relationship level, on a spiritual, conscious level, and me as an individual in that, and you as an individual, and us both as a couple. And it's hard. I guess we're constantly trying to find those ways to separate ourselves, because we become so intertwined and we constantly live together and travel together. So it's finding also myself within that, but it's hard to totally differentiate. Like we're already one organism. And so yeah, I want to share more about this transformation that I've been through personally, from the 10-12 hour work days in an office to where we are and where I am living now, which is a much more balanced life-work balance, much more balanced spiritual, emotional, and the sense of freedom that I feel. And same with our relationship, where we were 4 or 5 years ago and where we are now, in terms of our communication, in terms of our sexuality, in terms of our freedom within the relationship, the openness, the space that we give each other, and the togetherness, and how that has evolved and transformed.
So that's beautiful. And I think that is the many things that you have to share with the world and you have learned. And yes, I can proudly say that we've learned many things, and we were trying many different things to see what works for us, and we questioned everything. And our ability to question structures and predetermined systems that were kind of given to us, and we were so much, how do you say, what's the word? preconditioned to think in a certain way, to live a life in a certain way. I really want to offer this to the world. I want to offer the gift of questioning things. And we made a lot of brave choices. We gave up on a lot of things in our lives in order to sit here right now in Bali and have this conversation. And it's something that, one, I'm very proud of, and two, I feel like it can serve other people. And this is why I'm here, at least for me. This is why I'm here. I want to share my observations about how I see life, about what you've learned, about what I've learned in the process. Because for me, not a while ago, this whole being a human kind of thing was so complicated. And I feel like I really started to build a good foundation, a healthy one for myself. And I can only imagine that I can't be the only one that felt this way. I can't be the only one who felt so lost, so confused, so disconnected, and kind of like just eager to find a better way to live my life. And this is what pushed me to embark on this journey of uncertainty. And I feel like in that process, I've learned so many things that are useful for me and are practical. And when I started this journey, I would read people's journeys and I would try to expose myself to as much content as possible that was supporting me. And I feel like I'm at a point where I can share things that might help other people as well. And that's something that's very precious to feel. So I definitely think that we learned one thing or two about relationships, about communication, about lifestyle, about choices, about, consciousness and awareness, self-awareness, self-love, so many things, sexuality, that are part of everyone's journey. So if we can be here to support anyone, that would be a huge success for me.
And beautiful, really is, things you said. And I just want to reiterate one of the first things you said about that question mark. Putting a question mark on maybe lifestyles or preconceived ideas that we were born into. And I feel like many people, but specifically the two of us, which I know best, we've kind of done that from a very young age, questioning the religious orthodox upbringing that we've had, questioning like I said, the Western kind of capitalistic lifestyle that we were living, putting a question mark on things in our relationship, which we might choose to share, putting question mark on things in our sexuality. And that's what we're encouraging, I think, is to put a question mark on the things that you're doing or that you're believing in your life. Not saying that the way we are living our life is the only way or the right way for you, but just making sure that the way you're living your life is the best way you're living your life. And if it's really, because what happens when you put a question mark on things, it's a win-win. Either you try something new and then you say, hey, what I was doing before was right for me. So you go back, but with a full heart and not just kind of like with a presence and not just blinded. Or you learn something new and you say, wow, this is better for me. And just an example was like, I couldn't imagine, you kept saying like, let's travel. I never really traveled in my life. And then we went for our honeymoon for 9 weeks. And like I said, it opened my chakras and it was beautiful and amazing. And I was like, oh, wow, I want to do this more. And I think I was always afraid of traveling because I was always depressed coming back. And I was always afraid that I would get so addicted to it that I would leave the lifestyle. But that's such a twisted way of thinking, because if it's better for me, then why not do it? But then easily I went back to the lifestyle because it was so hard to break free of those chains. And you kept saying, let's go for 1 year, let's do it. And I was like, are you fucking crazy? You're trying to ruin our future. I'm trying to save up money and work so that when we're 60 we can live the lives that we're dreaming of. And I didn't even know what type of life that I was dreaming of. And I think that's part of where the feeling low, the depression came in, because something was not there. And the moment we started traveling and started questioning this, it was like, oh wow, maybe this is better. for me. Maybe what I have been fed my whole life, again, whether it was someone telling me, you know, physically, or if it was just from videos, movies, content that I was watching, reading, it just wasn't right. And I kind of felt like I had been lied to, even though it was me lying to myself.
And you know, what you're saying is something that we hear from a lot of people, right? We talk to a lot of people. Now that we live this lifestyle for 4 years, we see people that look at us and say like, yeah, like you're living the dream, or I can't do that for myself. And it's just a perception. We were able to tap into a different perception of reality, because when you're living your life in a certain way, you truly believe that there's no other way. And when you see people like sharing, you know, those motivational videos and content creators that are like living their best life, and you're like, okay, that's not them, it can't be me, because it's impossible. It's not possible for me to have the life I want for myself. And this is the thing that I feel like such a huge passion to share, that anyone can change their lives. And it's not like you know, a nice billboard picture. It's very chaotic, but it's possible. It's possible to get the life that you want for yourself. And if something doesn't fit right and doesn't feel right, then that's the time to check in and see what's really going on. Like, why aren't you happy with what you have? Is it something about the way you perceive your reality? Is it something that requires change in the way you live your life? Sometimes it doesn't. It doesn't mean you need to change everything. Like we did something very radical, which was very unplanned, by the way. We just went for 3 months to India because we needed a break, because we got to a point that we couldn't continue the way we did. And we got everything we had. So I feel like for many people, the turning point in their lives is like what you said at the beginning, is when pain hits you so hard that you can't avoid it anymore. And you come to a point where you're like suffering enough to go and make some changes in your life. And I want to offer another way to say like, hey, you don't have to go all the way to suffering and fully be in pain in order to get what you want for yourself. You can make choices that are just healthy and supporting you without going there.
Yes. And I just want to say, because you said like we made a very radical choice, I just want to say that at first it didn't seem so radical, because we had a ticket back to Israel. It was just 3 months. Yes, it was kind of bigger. Most people travel for at most for a week, for a month, or like I said, if it's a honeymoon, then maybe they'll do 2 months. 3 months was big, but getting up and leaving everything wasn't something that we had intended or was even close to what we believed we were doing. And so it's taking things step by step and understanding that it doesn't have to be so radical to make. There could be small changes in your life that make it better. And yes, I also loved what you said, is that we're here to share that it isn't always pretty. It's not necessarily easy. It's not going to be those pink Instagram pages where you just see beautiful beaches and you don't see the struggle. Yes, we have beautiful beaches, and those are things that help us keep going. One of the things, and there are beautiful dances and people and beautiful countries and places that we see, but there is also the everyday struggle, or the everyday things that we have as humans. There are emotions, and we have low days, and we're not constantly happy. And so we want to share that as well in an authentic way and show the truth about this lifestyle.
But you know what I think changed the most for me? It's not the fact that I was expecting that one day I won't feel this way. It's my relationship with those days. It's my relationship with the uncomfortable situation I'm facing. And I can say for a fact that today, who I am and how I feel about things, I feel way better about life than what I used to. Way better. So even if when I'm having like low days and a lot of shit comes to the surface, I still can say that yes, my life turned for the better. much better than what it used to be. So I also don't want to like just talk about all the struggles all the time and say like it's all a struggle and life is a struggle. I actually think that life can be sweet and full of surprises and full of growth and full of so much joy. I feel like we experienced so much joy in our life in the past years because we were able to access it by going through some really uncomfortable situations. But when you're willing to go through and do the inner work and work on your patterns and on the way you see things and on the way you react to things, things get better. And it's true that I had so many moments that I was looking at our lives and I was like, thank you. Like literally, like, wow, I get to experience this life. But I never ever thought for a second that I wasn't responsible for that, that it was just luck. Okay, I agree that we are privileged and I can't say that we're not, but I feel like the universe gives you opportunities all the time to kind of evolve and create a better life for yourself, but you need to co-create it with the universe. You need to take responsibility and decide that you want better for yourself. So when I'm hearing someone that is extremely unhappy with his life circumstances, their life circumstances, I offer to look inside and see what's not working and then starting working with that. And I think that's something that a lot of people miss out and they get stuck there. I don't want to use the word victimhood because it triggers me, because I feel like a lot of people, they do that, but it's not on purpose and it's not something that it's not intentional. But yeah, people feel they don't have the power to change and they're stuck in work, in a relationship, in a country, whatever. And I want to say, fuck it. Like, you don't have to. And this was the point of this podcast to begin with. We called it Fuck It, not to be annoying and say, fuck you, we don't care about you. But it was like, fuck it on all the things that we were holding ourselves. And we were saying like, no, it's impossible. We can't do that. We can't do this. We can't do that. And we were like, fuck it. Let's let go of the things that we think we need, like an apartment, like a stable job, like our savings. We were putting everything on the table and saying, we're all in and let's see where life takes us. And I swear, life became extraordinary because of that decision. And for me, I want to share that process. That's why. And again, not to say my way of living, it's the only way of living, but it's just like checking in. Where can we expand? Where can we learn? Where can we grow? How can we feel more fulfilled with our lives? Not happy, but fulfilled. I think that's a higher frequency for me.
So I think maybe one of the last thing to speak about because of time, but I think one of the biggest barriers to making change is the fear of change, and maybe speak about that for a moment, why we're so afraid of change, and do we have any tools or things that can help to work with change?
What do you think? Because I know you were a person that didn't like changes at all. Every time we had to do changes, it was hard for you. So what did you learn about changes?
It's a good question. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is when changes, it is about the baby steps. It is taking small steps. It's like, I want to go to the gym. I'm not going to go and start raising 60 kilos. I'll be in too much pain and I won't be able to move after a week. And it's not going and working out for 2 hours. It's going and doing that 20 minutes and starting to integrate that change in a small way, that and creating those small wins. That's obviously it's kind of like a catch-22, but creating the change that then you feel better about, and it proves to you that the change isn't so fearful, but it's actually good, right? So maybe it's trying to remember different changes, because we've all been through changes in the past, and think about changes that were for the better and did benefit us. So that can give some courage.
Can you give an example from your life, from that you learned, that you changed and it changed for the better?
I don't have a clear one that comes to mind. I mean, one change that I guess I didn't intend on, but I always felt that people who were traveling and not working were lazy. And laziness has really, really bad branding in Western society. And when I speak about laziness, is like the act of doing nothing, or the act of not pushing forward and creating constantly. And so I was in this kind of frenzy of work. And when I'm coming home, doing courses because I need to make more money and make more and push myself more so that, again, I can grow and get a better title and be better. And that image of someone just lying on the beach and reading a book and doing nothing, it was like, oh, that's a menace to society. And then I became that person through the changes, I obviously did things and work, but found myself not agreeing to work more than 4 hours a day, whereas 10-12 hours a day for me was like, oh, this is fulfillment. And just lying on the beach and meditating to me was a waste of time, and going inward. And so suddenly I started viewing that person and that had that branding of laziness as someone who's doing, like, I started doing a lot of inner work. And from the outside, it looks like I'm doing nothing, but journaling and going to therapy and sitting and contemplating and sitting and just slowing down and enjoying life, being. That was a huge shift and a huge change, that suddenly I was able to start appreciating the life that I was living, whereas before I didn't have time to appreciate the life that I was striving for so much and I was pushing so hard for, but I was overworked and had no time to sit back and see sunsets. We would live next to the beach in Tel Aviv, and you would say at the end of the day, come watch the sunset with me. I said, no, I have to do this course. I have to, like, that's, what kind of lifestyle is that? That was crazy. And now I can sit on the beach and really enjoy just looking at nature, and yeah, there's a beautiful change and a huge change for me. And now I'm working back. I went to maybe one extreme, and now I'm working back as to asking myself, like, okay, where and what do I want to create from a very deep place within myself? What do I want to bring and give to this world? Not because of some inertia that was just kind of pushing me forward, but really thinking and feeling into that deep place. And that comes through that space of listening and silence, and listening to myself and to that intuition, which I am still figuring out how to listen exactly and what it's saying to me. But I've definitely become a much, much better friend towards myself, and much closer to my inner and deepest desires.
Yeah.
So how would you like to end or summarize?
I think we said many things, but I think this is a great intro to our offering and what we want to share with the world and with people who will listen to this podcast. And I really hope it touches on topics that are relevant and supportive to ourselves, to our journey, and to other people around us. And I really am looking forward to recording.
Yeah. And really, if you've made it this far and are curious or still not 100% sure what we're going to bring, we're also not 100% sure. But if you feel that itch inside of you, if you feel that something isn't 100% right in your life, if you feel that there are other ways to live your life, or at least are curious to hear if there are other ways, if you want to get to know yourself better, if you want to get to know others better, if you're lacking intimacy in your life, if you want to improve and deepen your relationships with yourself, with others, if you want to deepen in your relationship around sexuality, your communication with others, your communication around sexuality, and just joy and abundance, then please join us and share this with people that you think it could benefit, because we want to bring more of this. And thank you for listening.
So this was the first episode of the Fukit Podcast. We once again want to thank you for being here, and we hope you enjoyed this episode.
We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what resonated with you. What did you take from this episode?
And if you like this episode, please support us by liking and following the podcast.